Guys, welcome back to Jason Cherry Production. I am Jason Cherry, and I am thrilled today to be giving my first bass guitar lesson on my channel. So today I want to talk about the major scale. So all of you guys probably have heard of the major scale like within the first day of learning musical theory. So I want to talk about the major scale pertaining to this specific instrument, the bass guitar. So basically, the major scale is arrangement of 7 different pitches plus the octave. So it sounds like this. So if I started from C major, it sounds like this. Right? And then if I descend it, right? And then usually it's do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do. Right? So it's a very, very common scale. I'm pretty sure your grandmother knows it. You know what I mean? It's a giveaway as soon as you hear it. So the major scale is very important, and I'll tell you why. When I was learning the scale, I was taught it in this fashion, and then I moved it up, played in different keys, played in different positions, right? And just really to build my chops up high, you know, up, down, low. So the thing is, I played the scale, but I never understood how important it was. I never understood the relationship to musical harmony because I would just play the intervals, right? And I didn't understand. I didn't connect my ears. I didn't connect my spirit to the scale. It was just a mundane exercise each and every time I would play it. But as I got further in advance in my musical, studies, I realized how important the major scale is, how much of a role it plays within Western music and harmony. So today I want to really highlight that, and today I want to talk about the treasures within the major scale. So let me start off by saying this. The importance about the major scale is to understand it like your family. So let's take the major scale. Let's take C major, for example, C major scale, for example. The scale as it is, I would call that the parent. Whether it's the mother or the father, I would say this is the parent. So now all the content within this scale would be a relative to the parent. So it could be a sibling, it could be a cousin, it could be, aunt, it could be whomever. You get the idea. It's a relative. So that's the thing I wasn't taught until later in my career or later in my studies. And then I realized how important and how much the major scale was the building blocks to musical harmony. So if we think about the major scale as a parent, and then now we say, okay, well, what is one of the relatives? I want to point that out. One of the relatives would be triads. So you may ask, what is a triad? A triad is a 3-note chord, right? It's only 4 types. It's major, it's minor, it's augmented, and it's diminished. When you understand triads, you understand the building blocks of harmony, because most people will get very tensed when they hear a very complex chord like let's say a C major 9 sharp 11 13 chord. You look at that and you're just overwhelmed, like, oh man, I need to go and get me a jazz degree from school out there. Not necessarily. If you understand the building blocks of harmony, aka triads, then you understand that chord is a piece of cake, because the triads are the building blocks to that chord. So it may be a complex extended chord in the sense of it has 6, 7 notes, but it's all based off of triads. I'm not going to go into the weeds about that in today's lesson. Today's lesson is mainly to talk about just the basic triads: the major, the minor, the augmented, and diminished. How it pertains to the major scale, so C major. So we're going to be talking about C major. So did you know, I'm jumping into this now, pay close attention. Did you know that every one of these degrees have a triad. So the C has a triad, the D has a triad, the E has a triad, F has a triad, G, and so forth and so on. So by today's lesson, my intent is to explain each one of the triads within the scale. So let's go ahead and basically derive those triads, and we're going to derive them diatonically. All the notes will be pertaining to one key, which is C major. So I'm not using any notes outside of the C major scale. So let's start with the first degree and derive its triad. C, E, G. That's the first triad of the major scale, of the first degree, C major scale. So when we look at it, is it a major triad, is it minor, or is it a minor triad? Or is it a diminished triad or augmented? So the way we do the naming convention is we look at the root. The root, which is C on the first degree, right, is C. We're going to call it C something. C, okay? And then we'll go over to the third. The third is the identifier of whether it's a major, minor. So if you understand interval, which is one of the prereqs to this lesson, you would understand that the relationship between C and E is a major third, right? So if I say major, then that means that it's C major, it's a C major triad. So now the 5, which is G, doesn't affect it, right? Does not affect it from being a C major or C minor. So in this case, it's a C major because the third is a major, right? All right, we'll talk about the 5 as we get further down. On the next degree, which is the 2, and let me back up a little bit. When I say the 2, when I say the 1, the 5, this and that, all I'm doing is consecutively saying that C is 1, D is 2, E is 3, F is 4, G is 5, A is 6, B is 7, and then the C on top of this, the octave, or 8. So now when I go to the 2, which is D, let's derive its triad. So it will be D, F, A, right? So the relationship or the distance between D and F is a minor third, so it's going to be a D minor triad. Okay? All right, so now we're going to go to the third degree, which is E, third degree in the scale. We're going to say E, G, B. So G in relation to E is basically a minor third. So then it'll be E minor triad. All right, so then F, which is the fourth degree up, would be F, A, C. A in relation to F is a major third. So it'll be F major triad. Okay, we're deriving it really nicely. So now the next note, the next degree, which is the 5, it'll be G, B, D, right? So B in relation to G is a major third. So it'll be a G major triad. Now the next degree is A. It'll be A, C, E. So the relationship between C and A is a minor third. So it'll be an A minor triad. The 7th degree is, and the final degree is B, D, F. And the relationship between D and B is a minor, okay? But we don't have a perfect 5. We have a flatted 5. So this makes this one a diminished triad. So a diminished triad is root, flat third, flat 5. It's similar to a minor triad, but all you're doing instead is flatten the 5. Now, the same thing with augmented. Augmented is similar to a major triad, but all you're doing is raising the 5. There's no augmented triads in the major scale system because those degrees are not present, right? So they're not diatonic to the scale. So we just derive all the triads, right? We stopped on B because the next one will be C, and that's just the octave, and it's just the same thing as the first triad. So Let me speed up a little bit. It's C major, D minor, E minor, F major, G major, A minor, B diminished, C major. So the thing you want to get out of this is two things. You want to start to train your ears to hear these notes in this particular fashion. And the other thing is you want to start to make your fingers independent on your fingerboard, right? So this is a great exercise. And you're harmonizing the major scale. And you're getting harmonic value from your practice. So instead of just playing random stuff that doesn't really give you any harmonic value, but just give you exercise, you're actually getting harmonic training and a nice finger exercise. So let me play this again. You want to take it slow at first. Let me slow it down. You want to take it slow. You may want to use a metronome and set your tempo to about 100 BPM and just sit there and practice. I will talk about different rhythmic variations that you could use in your practicing in a later lesson. But today's intent is just to get the basic building blocks of the triads out. So I hope you now see that you don't have to just play this all day long, right? The C major scale within this order and fashion. You can play it like this. So the other thing I would like to talk about is the value of understanding triads and understanding it as building blocks to harmony. Because someday you're going to be playing with a piano player, or someday you're going to be playing with a backing track or doing a cover. So when you hear this chord, right, you need to understand the outline of it, right? So us bass players, we tend to outline the chord. We tend to play one note at a time, right? We really don't play chords, generally we don't play chords like this. We don't stack the notes. Normally you would hear that being done on a guitar or piano, right? So what we bass players are masterful at is outlining the chords. So when I hear this C major chord, right, I should understand that these are the notes that pertain to that chord, right? So that's very important, because what if one day I play this chord and I told you, what would you play over that, right? And then you may freeze up and you might say, I don't know. I don't know even the basic thing I would play, right? So with understanding the triad, you understand what kind of chord it is and you understand what is available, right? At the very least. I'm not saying that you play this all day long, right? I'm not saying that there's different ways of constructing a bass line, but at least you understand the basics of what that chord is and the function of the chord. So if I took a very simple progression here, right? A 1, 5, 6, 4, right? And all I'm talking about is the notes in the scale, right? The 1 of the scale, the major scale, the 5, the 6, the 4. Cool. All day long, if a guy told me to play the 1, 5, 6, 4, or a gal told me to play that, I could play the roots, right? And what if they told me, okay, well, could you be a little bit more creative and not just play inside the pocket and maybe be a little bit melodic? Then I'd be like, oh my gosh, well, I need to understand whether or not you're playing a minor or major chord, right? Because I can't just be playing a minor third on a major chord, right? That's not going to work, right? So that's where understanding the triads, at least understanding the fundamental triads, come into play. We play the movement actually. Pretend I'm the keyboard player, right? Right? So I should be able to outline that. Like, let's say in a practice setting, I should be able to outline that progression. Like da 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 da, then do 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 do, do 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 do, do do. Right? So I should be able to outline that just with the triads, to understand the movement, to understand the chord quality, right? I need to understand that this is a major chord, I need to understand this is a major chord. I need to understand that this is a minor chord, and I need to understand that it closes off with a major chord. Back to the one. So it's very important to understand your triads. It's very important to harmonize your major scale and not just play it like this, right? That's the whole intent of today's lesson, is to understand that it's more than just this. I want to hear this from now on. Very clean. So the other thing I like to talk about, fretboard mastery, right? So, you know, like I said, is two things. It's harmonic for the ears, and then it's be able to facilitate through your neck. So I'm playing it in a very basic way. The one thing I like for you to think about is that as long as you know what the notes are, then you could play it anywhere, right? Because, you know, the bass is very redundant. It's a matrix. So if I say, for example, I say C, E, G, right? Don't I have an E down here or here, right? So I could play C, E, G, right? I could play the C above, or sorry, I could play the E above the C, right? So if I really want to stretch, and that's really good for your fingers, right? To develop independency in your fingers. I could stretch that way. I could play like this, right? And then I could even take it to another, you know, pivoting point. So I could say the C over here, right? And then I could say E, G, and I could layer it. Say C, E, G, right? So I could play it like this, a 2-octave. But we'll get into that in another lesson, right? I wanted to show you a basic. See, and I'm creating this movement, play it in different positions and also different orientations. So what I showed you today was horizontal to vertical, right? So I want you to be able to just play it vertically, right? So I could play the same, for example, like this. I could play this vertically all the way up the neck. So I played it over 3 strings. I could play this only over 2 strings, the A and the D. So and I want you to also descend it, right? When you go up, you must go down. Simple laws of physics. Right? So I want you to be able to play it very clean. I want you to be able to go all the way up vertically. I want you to be able to go horizontally, then vertically, because this is a 4-string bass, right? So I can't go all the way over, you know, like as I would do probably on a 6-string. But if you're trying to develop facility and the independency and not get scared when you're all the way up here, because I was once that guy, right? I was scared to be up here in the neck, right? So this harmonizing of the major scale with triads will help. So I want you guys to practice this. I want you guys to come back and tell me the different ways you found to play these different triads. All the triads were diatonic to the key, right? So all the notes were within the key. That's the other takeaway. So, and then one of the last takeaways is to understand that you can, as long as you know the notes, you could play it in all kinds of different shapes and patterns. But I want you to play it how I played it for the first time through, right? And look at my fingering, right? So the first triad, I use middle finger for the first note, then my index for the second note, and then my pinky for the next note. So I want you to pay attention to the fingering and pay attention to your fluidity and your continuity, and use a metronome. Guys, I hope you found this first lesson helpful. If you like what you see and you would like to donate to this channel, I'll leave my Venmo and my PayPal within the content box. Also, please share and subscribe and like. If you're looking to further your knowledge, maybe you want a little bit more faster pace than just this first video, you could definitely reach out to me at jcherrymusic@gmail.com for lessons. And most of my lessons are, especially now in these times, are virtual. We could use very robust platforms like Zoom or Skype or FaceTime or whatever works for you, and even Google Duo, which is a nice one, whatever works for you. Please let me know. Don't be hesitant. I want you to be a literate bass player. I want you to be comfortable with what you play, understand what you play, and be able to build off of the knowledge that you have. Just the basic fundamentals. It's all about the fundamentals. All right, guys. Until next time, please like, subscribe to my channel, and share. Have a great day.